Hey, everybody.
I don't know.
All right. How about it?
I mean, everyone knew you were going to be here pretty much, but what does it mean to you to get the extension and have that out of the way?
Yeah, just obviously very thankful to Mr. Laurie for believing in me to hire me 4 years ago, and then to continue that I'm able to continue being the head football coach of this team, and just can't thank him and the organization and Howie enough for everything. And man, there's so many. What a great owner. What a great owner we have. And like I said, it can't be more thankful. My family's thankful. I'm thankful. And I love being the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. And, looking forward to continuing on.
How many years is multi-year?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the details of it, of any of that stuff. Sorry, I don't want to.
Is there a reason why?
No. I just won't get into the details of any of that. I know, but usually coaches' contracts are you don't get those as much, right?
This is a business where people don't stick around a lot. You've been around long enough. How nice is it for you to know that you're going to have a family, be able to raise here?
Yeah, we love this city. I know how happy I am in being able to come into this office every day and work for Mr. Laurie and work alongside Howie and with all the great players we have. And my wife loves this city. My kids love this city. And we're sure glad that it will be our home for the foreseeable future.
If you get back to the 4 years you've spent here, what do you think you've learned most about being in this job?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, you're learning that can go on. That question I could answer that for a long time. You learn every single day. You're constantly trying to grow every single day. And, I think the main things, and not that you learn it on this job, but the main things that anytime someone asks me about, what does it take to be successful or this and that, it feels like the common theme that I always come back to is you have to work your butt off. You have to work insanely hard, work harder and put in hours and put in time more than you ever thought you had to, and then you have to be able to embrace adversity. And I think, because adversity it's coming, and so what I think you learn, not that I learned that on this job, but it's cemented even more and more every day I go through that, and so those are the keys in my mind.
What are your thoughts on everything that you've accomplished here so far, and how far you personally have come from the first press conference to the growing of the roots to a 742 winning percentage after that comment to all the ups and downs? What are your thoughts on how much you have overcome here in this role?
Again, everybody that is striving to, reach the top of the mountain or, whatever it is, like we try to do every single year, adversity is going to be there regardless. And I really look at any adversity that I've ever been through in my life, whether it was my leg injury in 2001, whether it was my dad going through cancer, whether it was the collapse of our us kind of falling apart at the end of the 2023 season and finishing 1-6. Every one of those things, whether it's scrutiny from, like you said, from your first press conference, I can look at the good in all those things and find good in all those things and how it's shaped me to be who I am today and has made me better as a result of it. And you never want to go through those things as you go through them. But man, if you allow it to shape you, it really does. It can shape you into be who you be better and to be who you are at this moment. So, I would say for all the things that I've been through, whether it's on this job or whether it's in my life, I've been able to get better from all those things. And I'm grateful. As crazy as that sounds, as bad as it is, when you go through those things, I can look back at it and be grateful. And you hope that the next adversities you go through, you remember, hey, you're going to be grateful from this one as well. So, hope I answered your question.
Somewhat of a follow-up to that. You've been at your best, it seems, when there's pressure, tension, lack of a better term there. Now that you've won the Super Bowl, you have this security. How do you manufacture that tension, discomfort, whatever term you would use there?
Yeah, I feel fortunate that I'm around a lot of guys, like our coaches, our other coaches, our players on this team, that we have this will to win, right? You don't. Someone put it this way. I've talked to a lot of coaches this offseason trying to get better at my craft, and somebody put it this way: you don't win a pickup basketball game and say, all right, I'm satisfied, I'm going home. Right? You say, hey, how do we run it back? And we're not even thinking about running. We're thinking about where we are today and trying to get better. But you strap up and you play again. And I think there's always pressure in this profession, and and looking forward to the next year and building this team. Everything else is in the past. Like everything else that goes in. I think that when teams are trying so hard to repeat or trying so hard to recapture, like there's two mistakes that they make, right? They either are looking at their past accomplishments, or they're looking too far into the future of how do you do that again. And it's really about the daily grind that you go through day in and day out. And there's a mental toughness to being able to do that and go through that every single day. And so, I want to do my job just to do what's best for this football team, and make Mr. Laurie proud that he made the right decision and help these players continue to get better. And every challenge, there's a new challenge with every team of building the team. That's what's so cool about a season, that you start again and you're right back to the beginning and going through the same steps that you went through in the beginning. But yeah, I think, again, you're when you're self-motivated, like, and it may appear that I might be my best that when, I have scrutiny, or when as opposed to the other side, but when you're self-motivated, the outside noise shouldn't affect you and doesn't affect you. You put your head down and you work to get better.
Yeah, with the push vote coming tomorrow, are you still actively lobbying and calling around to get some support, or do you feel like the deck is stacked against you guys?
We'll see. We'll see where that goes. We're not waiting for very long to figure it out. It's gonna be public tomorrow, and you know how I feel about it. I think we obviously were at the owners' meetings. We talked about how we felt about it, and I don't think anyone could question what my sentiment is on it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with it tomorrow.
Speaking of running it back again, Jalen is going to have the new offensive coordinator, play caller again for now knows how many times in his career. How do you think he's going to handle that?
Yeah, the same way he's handled it every year. I think he's a guy that just is going to, again, same thing, start right from the beginning again, working out like crazy again, getting ready again in the classroom, getting ready on the field. And I don't notice any difference whether it was Kellen being the coordinator, Brian, Shane, or Kevin. And, I see the same process that he goes through, which is what makes Jalen special, is that he goes through the same process over and over and over again. The minute details and just the same over and over and over again. You just see him go through it and try to get better from, new experiences, new voices. I think Kevin's done a great job. I really have been impressed with how hungry Kevin is for this opportunity, and all the good new ideas that he's bringing. Even though, like, Kevin's been here for, with me for 8 years, there's still things that when you're in charge, that I'm like, hey, now let's do this. Let's give this an opportunity. So, really excited about where we are there, and I don't see any change in Jalen and anything that he does and how he preps, regardless of who the coordinator is.
What have you learned about the fostering of the cultivation of those ideas? Because you have had to change coordinators a lot, and that's the mark of a consistent head coach. What have you learned that works in that regard?
Yeah. Again, you always want to do the things that your players do best. And so there's figuring out who the players are. Now Kevin's obviously been here through the 4 years. He has a very good feel of what they do and what they do well. And so you always want to do what they do best. You always want to keep things in that you've done well, that you want to continue to grow and dress up a little bit, and then also some new wrinkles that kind of mesh to that. And then you have some things that it might be brand new. But that's the beauty of the off season. You go through your process and you decide, hey, here's what's primary, here's what's secondary, here's what's out, here's what's new. And then you start repping it, and it kind of evolves as you go.
Nick, this is your second time coming off playing in the Super Bowl. Obviously, the result different this time. But what did you learn about how playing in the Super Bowl in 2022 impacted 2023? And are there any changes you're making for this upcoming season based off that?
Yeah, there's always a fine line, I think, of managing, guys and as far as their bodies go, and then daily improvement, right? And so there is no secret. Like someone asked me earlier, and I said, there is no secret. Like you have to be able to overcome adversity, and you have to work hard. And so there is a fine line between that, though, right? Of the grind that you put in because of coming off of a long season, and having the guys ready to play each Sunday. And getting better, right? If you lean too far one way and say, all right, it's just important that we get to Sunday with ourselves as fresh as we can possibly be, then maybe you miss out on some opportunities to grow, your fundamentals and your situational football and all the different things that takes there. And if you lean too far the other way, you run them into the ground. So there's a fine line there. It's not and I don't think there's a handbook that says this is how long. You got to have a feel for the players. You have to have it be in constant communication with your players of how they're feeling. You got to know what players to say, hey, how are you feeling? And know who's trying to maybe get a couple reps off and who's really telling you the truth. You got to do the same thing with the doctors and the training staff. And the strength coaches. And the good thing is here, I got a lot of players that I can lean on and trust there. I got a lot of guys there with Nando and Tom and Arsh that, are, give me their best advice as well. And then it's my job to listen to all parties and do what I think's best for the football team while having all that information. And so, there is a fine line, but I know there's no substitute for hard work and getting better. But then again, you gotta think about the length of the season and where you are at that particular point, because one week might be a little bit harder than another week, and all those things are balanced out and thought about each and every week.
You said you've spoken to a lot of coaches. Who have you spoken to, and who gave that pickup basketball analogy?
I can't remember who gave the pickup basketball analogy, but I've talked to I've talked to a bunch of different guys. I don't mind sharing that with you. I always talk to Coach Karras. I always talk to Coach Wright. I was fortunate to speak with Coach Saban this year, Coach Gino at UConn, Coach Staley at South Carolina. So there's just been a lot of good insight that I've been able to pick up from them. And again, you got to continue to try to grow at all times. So just been thankful for them for them talking to me and passing on knowledge of questions that I have.
You guys talk
Are
about
you
more
able to
folks.
turn the page from we won the Super Bowl to okay, now we got to look ahead to next year?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Yeah, at what point during the offseason were you able to turn the page from we won the Super Bowl to okay, let's look ahead to next year?
I know this sounds crazy, but right away. Of course, I enjoyed the parade, and of course, I enjoyed the flight back home. But and Kellen got the job, and then you're right back into filling coaching spots. So there's your calendar is always completely full, and you're just constantly trying to get better at what you did the year before. Like how do you hire coaches better, and then go through that process, and then it's into draft, to the draft and free agency, and then it's into players phase one, and then so. Yeah, you got to turn the page. You can enjoy it, but you can enjoy it for a little bit. But you got to turn the page, and you got to turn the page quickly, because we'll have a high standard for ourselves. I know you all will have a high standard for us, but we know how high our standard is for ourselves, and it takes steps, and that's mental toughness. And I think I talked about this with the players today. I think sometimes when I talk, I tend to talk to them a lot about mental toughness, and I talk to them about overcoming adversity, and that's a big part of mental toughness. But another part of this mental toughness thing is going through the same monotonous things over and over and over again, and having the same attitude and effort no matter what the circumstances are, right? Oh man, we just went through this draft process, well, let's do it again. And so there's a mental toughness to doing the same things and the same steps over and over again. I'd like to also say, I couldn't tell you how many players, and coaches had come up to me and just say congratulations, and it felt like my response was, again, I got a chance to thank Mr. Lurie, and in my opening, what I said up right away, but it felt like with every player that I talked to, the main thing that was coming out of my mouth was, well, I'm not in this situation without great players, and I'm not in this situation where I'm able to sign a new contract without great coaches, and I'm not in this situation to be here without Howie. So it truly is. You can't be great without the greatness of others, and whether it was Jalen coming up to me, and said the same thing to all the guys, Jalen, Dallas, Clint Hurt, Vic. Howie. And so, again, it just shows you how awesome a team sport like football is. It takes everybody, and sure, I'm grateful for Mr. Lurie and all the players and all the coaches here that put me in this position to be able to do this.
From that
Go
professional
ahead.
standpoint,
Last one.
diversity and all that, but on a personal level, is there any validation, Super Bowl extension, just when you're by yourself,
again, all that, like, you can either go at it and be like, look at me now, but I don't think that like, again, I'm grateful for all those scrutiny. I'm grateful for that for multiple reasons, right? I'm grateful in the sense that it shapes you to who you are going to be, right? God puts you through things, and He shapes you to who He wants you to be. And then also, through scrutiny and through different things like that, and adversities that you face, I'm going to be able to raise my kids, and they're naturally going to be able to, they're going to be going through things, and I'm going to be able to look back at things. And there's another reason I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that in the sense as well of, players that are going to have to go through that, because no one's exempt from adversity that you go through in the challenges of the NFL. So I don't think you can have a grateful heart for the things that you've went through to shape you to who you are, and then on the other end go, oh, look, what do you say? You know what I'm saying? And so that gratefulness of the scrutiny and of the adversity and all those things that you said, it's not validating. It's a grateful heart more so than the validation of a contract or a Super Bowl.
All right. Thanks, folks.